Hello, Ender Sword here again, and we are now in match 9, the ace match of this clan war between SCA and exioN. Baconayse just taking a game off Arium to make the series 4-4, and his new opponent is going to be SCA's YuMe, the Terran player, down here at the bottom right-hand side of the map. And obviously Baconayse, our Zerg player, up here on the top right-hand side, who just took a pretty convincing win off of a Protoss Arium. We are on a map that I constantly love. It is Ohana. That means something in some language. It means something in all kinds of languages, but you can figure that out on your own. We just get a standard wall off here, probably by our Terran player. I find that the Terran openings, while the actual buildings have changed, you get a lot more, like, say, Reaper openings and things like that, Widow Mine openings, and so on. The actual placement of the initial buildings, the first, like, 3 or 4, tends to be pretty standard. We've seen a lot of variation in Protoss openings, moving away from the Forge-type expands into building in their own base, but you still see the basic formation here by Terran players to prevent scouting, get that initial wall off, particularly against Zerg players. We're getting a spawning pool before hatchery for Baconayse. I believe this is what he did as well in the last game, but that was obviously against a different race, and so it probably doesn't really matter. Flight path in by the awesome-looking Anteater type Overlord, to kind of go in and get this side angle on whether or not the natural is actually being taken. It's always interesting to look at the Overlord paths on the various map. It's something that a lot of people just don't put very much thought into. They just kind of send it towards the enemy base, or if it's got one of those cliffs, they just kind of send it to that position. But the angle that you come in order to keep the Overlord alive while still getting key pieces of information. And here the key is going to be, is the expansion going down, and what is the timing on these two gases, as well as to give you access to do run-bys, very slow Overlordy run-bys into the main base and get a sense of what is going on there. We do see 2 refineries being taken at the same time for our Terran player, which would indicate, obviously, that he wants some gas, because that's what's in those, frankly. So the hatchery is about to be done here now. We got a queen transferred down with a second one building. There is gas being mined here now for a Zerg player, not quite at 100, so I don't know if he's going for the early Ling speed or what the plan will be for that gas. Is starting to pull workers off as he hits 100, and probably will go for that speed. Yeah, pretty typical thing to do in order to kind of get out there, get some map control, potentially shut down things like early Reapers and so on. We've got the bunker back behind the unbuildable rocks area, which is a pretty good cover spot. It's hard, obviously, to get any form of surround on that sort of thing, as opposed to going for this type of forward position, trying to do it at the ramp. Since we do have the back rocks here, they can be knocked out and kind of subvert this early bunker placement. So having the back here does protect a lot of the mineral line a lot better. If they come and try and harass in this area, you can always pop in and out in order to try and drive them off. We've got a factory here and going directly to a starport, so obviously not the 1-1-1 build that we used to see, or very unlikely that it would be that 1-1-1 build, as we get a tech lab there on the barracks as well. But you're getting a lot more of this 1-1-1, at least in the structure, but with Widow Mines usually coming out of it, Hellions coming out of it, and other tech like that, a lot of drop play coming off of this type of 1-1-1, and of course, obviously, the orbital command is down in the natural as well, which wouldn't be all that typical of the standard 1-1-1. Some creep starting to be spread here as he does try and get towards connecting the 2 bases, but we don't see a third hatchery or anything going down yet for Baconayse here. I always forget to do that. The drone count is very much in Baconayse's favor at this point. Got 45 against 28. He's really just been straight up droning. There was about a ling out on the map a second ago, going for the Evo chamber wall in with the queens, which are unable to actually block this. These Hellions may do a lot of damage. This is all relatively unprotected. The queens are going to try and get some work done. Do manage to pick off a couple of the Hellions here, and to do escape out of that. Aren't able to actually control any of the creep, and do result in about 5 worker kills there. So he does kind of get by. Obviously, some lings could have prevented some of that and lost their lives in the process to save some of the workers, but you probably then would have had to turn some of the workers into lings anyway, and in the end you're kind of at a wash there. So not as much damage as it probably could have been, but gives our Terran player YuMe a good idea of what is going on, what type of defenses do exist, whether or not there had been an expansion at this point. And as the Hellion numbers do get larger, we do have roaches out in time in order to block that, using this semi-wall quite well in order to prevent them from getting up into the natural. The Hellions kind of swing around. A few of them have been lost. I wouldn't say that they are at all cost effective at this point. Of course, later on in the game can still be used in the bulk of the army. The 3 remaining ones turned even into Hellbats later on if that technology is opted for. I feel that attack just existing kind of delayed this 3rd hatchery from going down, just due to having to control some of the units out front and having to make probably a few more roaches than were initially wanted at this point in the game. Generally left to themselves, the Zerg always wants to just macro up and just make more drones. So of course forcing pretty much any units out of there is a good thing. But as they do move in, may try and get a few unit kills, few worker kills. You can see there's not a whole lot out here. Marauders obviously pretty good against roaches, but the Hellions just aren't. And they're going to poke around at the edge, a little out of range of that bunker, but can't get a lot closer. Really the only vulnerable thing was what was at the gas there. Don't get a lot done, but do get a sense of what is going on in the Terran base. And I don't believe losing any roaches as they come on back home towards their own base. It would be very hard at this point for the Terran player to push out with the type of army that they have onto the Zerg side of things, which again offers the reassurance to Zerg that, you know what, I can just go up and drone some more. Throwing some hydras down behind this as well as getting that all-important muscular augments, which is the hydra speed, makes them go 25% faster. This combination of Roach Hydra, particularly against what we're seeing at the moment out of the Terran player, just kind of bio with a few Hellions thrown in, they really do a lot of DPS. They can out DPS these medevacs very quickly. They can obviously take them out themselves as well, and are really effective against that sort of thing. There is a lot of roach cover there in front of them, so as he moves to expand towards this 4th base, I don't think that this push is going to be of exceptional difficulty, although it is starting to get a fair bit bigger. He's going to be able to clear off some creep here. A few Widow Mines if they can get some good hits, but they do get taken out before they are even allowed to burrow in. And just a lot of DPS by the Zerg player here. The Terran Force stimming, getting a lot of healing done by these medevacs, and are actually able to pound through that. The Hydra is withdrawing back, but no real reinforcements actually streaming across for the Terran player. There's a bunch of Hydras, bunch of roaches coming out. Does manage to snipe off this 3rd base. This will ultimately get cleaned up, but losing a lot of drones here. A really good concave by these Hydras, but once the roaches are gone, they just don't have anything to tank for them. One of the medevacs getting picked off a little full of units, but does a pretty good job of clearing out the medevacs as well. One of the real problems that Zergs are having at this point, as well as Protoss, is keeping the medevac counts low enough. In a bad engagement, the medevacs can actually just zoom away. So you really have to be in the type of drawn-out engagement where the Terran thinks that there's a chance they're winning or they're targeting a specific thing in order to clear them out, or else they just kind of get out of there and they may lose their entire ground army. But as long as they're keeping the medevacs, then the numbers just go up and up and up, and it becomes a lot harder to kill them, and obviously it gives them a lot of opportunity to do drops later on in the game. So Baconayse losing that third base and losing all the workers on it is a real setback. The attack certainly did a lot more than I thought it would, but I think in this case, yeah, the Terran's going to have to pull back. A good Widow Mine there, getting some damage done. A couple of them mixed in just makes it hard to engage in certain locations, or you have to really target fire those down in particular before actually engaging the rest of the army, which can seem a little wasteful, particularly since you very often have to manually do it, and so you can overkill them a lot and waste a lot of the fire that you have in your army, unless you're really taking off just a small group of units enough to actually kill it, which you know, frankly, a lot of people just don't have the micro really to be able to do. That one only picking off, I believe, a single roach there. But again, just making this a hard place to engage into, particularly on like a narrow path like this. Go around here, you're going to hit Widow Mines. Around here, you're going to hit Widow Mines. And there's currently no Overseer coming with this army at all. Going up to Hive Tech behind this, but the army that's here now, just pretty standard ground sort of thing. It's not going to be great. You've got your roaches that are pretty hard countered by the Marauders, and the Hydras are just quite squishy. So once you lose that kind of front line on everything, these go down very quick. And I don't know if the proportions here are perfect for what we're facing from the Terran player, particularly with the Widow Mines. If they get a good hit on the Hydra pack of things, as they may now. Lucky I don't know if he knew that those were there, but a great concave actually by the Zerg player. He will be able to crush through this relatively easy, even with that much healing. And can he pick some of the medevacs off? They do speed boost away, but actually a little later. If that had continued to engage, could have lost maybe one or two more before realizing that. But we do get a drop in the third base during that, which is, of course, the benefit of having so many medevacs available. Not actually able to take out the base, but you can see it was definitely putting in some work there, and a lot of workers have been killed in this game. On Baconayse's side, we have 30 workers going down, the bulk of those being killed the first time that the hatchery at the third was taken out. Some people may see this and say, why are these in existence at the moment? Why have a bunch of evolution chambers there? That's to allow Vipers, which I don't believe are on the map yet, to recharge off those buildings. Get a great concave here again against the Terran player. But you can see as unit numbers dwindle, the Terran army gets stronger and stronger because the healing starts to outpower the DPS being done on the other side. The initial engagements on these make it look like the Zerg player is absolutely going to walk through everything. But once you get the roaches gone in the front and the numbers start to come down, all of a sudden the medevacs are enough to out-heal this damage, and we do have the Hydras just backing up onto their own side of the map there, losing a really good number. While they are a lot faster than they were in Wings of Liberty, they're still not the best retreaters in the world, as they can obviously get very easily run down by a stimmed Bioforce or anything like that. So probably losing a few too many of those. If you're going to disengage from a fight, you generally want to do it kind of the moment that your roaches are gone, if you're not actually going to win that and continue to press on. So that is fairly important. You can see there what these are for. The Vipers now feeding off these for energy as they come out. Obviously looking to put down some blinding clouds, or perhaps pull a few medevacs into the conflict. We got a drop by the Terran behind the fourth base, and the third base at the same time, targeting down that hatchery, which will once again fall. So just these multi-pronged attacks made possible by our friend the medevac are going to just be pulling apart the Zerg economy and are doing a lot of damage here. You've got a drop in the main, although this doesn't seem to be targeted at anything in particular. Probably getting up and seeing, oh, I want to stop and upgrade, but there's just Evo chambers absolutely all over the place, and these two are the ones that are actually actively doing anything. I don't think I've ever seen this many Evo chambers going down, but it is becoming the more and more popular thing to do to make sure these Vipers stay in high energy. And we'll probably see a lot of blinding clouds going down here. The Terran forces have to move out of them. They're just absolutely useless if they try and engage in that sort of area. You've just got the Hydras and Roaches just absolutely pounding at them while moving into this cloud. The medevac's being pulled aside but not actually being targeted after that, so this will get cleaned up again. Once the Roaches are kind of gone from the front, they just go through these so quickly. While they have more hit points than, say, a Marine, there's no healing being done to them, and they're just going to be absolutely destroyed by the type of DPS that a Terran army can pull out, can put out. Some of the creep being cleared up here. Definitely, if they're able to get rid of some of that, it's going to make it harder for these concaves to be achieved and easy to run them down. We got the Hellbat kind of bravely going in front and getting picked off, but you can see once there's just no cover there for the Hydras, they just melt under the force of this, and it's really hard to be out damaging 9 medevacs that are now out onto the field, even with this relatively small number of Terran forces that are actually under this medevac army. There's only a handful of them, but they're still able to get a lot done against this sort of army. They just don't have the damage to be able to beat out that type of medevac healing at this point once they're in low numbers. Few Vipers left out on the field, actually just these two. They are relatively high energy, so can afford more of the blinding cloud there, and obviously some room to consume again. Got another engagement that's happening off creep and just being pushed back into the, I guess what was the 5th base here for the Zerg player. Just going to target down the hatchery. Goes so quickly down once you're at 3-3. We do have 3-3 on both sides, and a couple medevacs being pulled off and picked off by our Zerg player, but there are still just 6 on the field. Starting to get low on energy, but still a lot for these small engagements. There's just not that massive number of Zerg units that's out. There's also not a massive number of Terran units, but I find in the smaller engagements like this, particularly with that healing, it's just not going to go in the Zerg's favor. And he's kind of being whittled down here, just now getting what was essentially the 3rd base up and running, and you can see this massive drone transfer, 41 drones working on this base, making sure that nothing is going to go down on this side here, clearing out some creep probably for later use, as there is an orbital command ready to go into that position. We've got this base occupied now by the Terran player as well. And I just don't know a lot of places that our Zerg can go with this. Baconayse is on Hive Tech, but there is there's no Spire out on the map or anything like that, so it would be hard to switch into Broodlords, which would probably be the place to go, given that there's not really air-to-air. Getting some good blinding clouds here, but when you've got these numbers, the Terran can just drive forward through that blinding cloud and go directly into your army. It kind of works better in a situation where you're a lot more even in the type of things that you have. Blinding clouds in combination with fungal growth, even though it's harder to launch those now than it used to be, they're still not useless. They're still really good. So by kind of blinding cloud and dropping some fungals to hold things in it, you can really pick off and block a large part of the army and prevent them from moving a lot. Coming in now, destroying all the Evo chambers, and I just don't know what Baconayse is going to have to push this back, as he does ultimately target down the hatchery here at the 4th, and we're really only running off one base for our Zerg player, and in reality none, because there's no workers there apparently. I don't know where, I actually don't know what happened there, that there are no workers. It seems like they were all just kind of pulled off, because there are 75 out on the map, so it's a matter of assigning them back to that area, but I can't see our Zerg player coming back from this. There are now a bunch of workers with the main army. Everything has been pulled off to initiate an attack across the map against YuMe. Is going to go towards this 4th base, perhaps thinking if he can knock this economy off, then there's a possibility, but I'm pretty sure at this point Baconayse knows that this game is in fact over, and this is just a formality at this point. As the bio crashes through everything, Baconayse does call GG, and SCA is able to take this ace match and the clan war 5-4 over exioN. Awesome set of games. Was very back and forth this whole time. I know that exioN tries to do these a fair bit, as does SCA, I believe. So if you enjoy this type of game, definitely keep an eye on this channel and exioN Gaming for other similar events coming up. Definitely a well-won one here by YuMe and SCA. Excellent matches and a really good showcase of what a lot of people are doing now in Heart of the Swarm. We've seen a lot of variance in the types of strategies that have been going on, and largely I found the more people are adapting to the new Heart of the Swarm tactics, units, and things that you can get away with and do, the more successful they've obviously been here. So thanks for watching again, guys. If you just tuned into this game, the other ones are available up here on the YouTube channel as well. So please go back and check those out and keep your eyes peeled for anything in the future. Subscribe to exioN Gaming here on YouTube, as well as my own channel, EnderSword, youtube.com/EnderSword. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.